Hello and welcome to my next class, which is on parametric and non-parametric test with a special reference to chi-square test. Well, let me start it from the beginning of the slide. As you can see, it is a parametric and non-parametric test. This is the symbol of chi-square test. It looks somewhat like Latin x raised to power 2. So this is the chi-square test. Now, before concentrating on the main topic parametric and non-parametric, let me acquaint my students or the audience with few of the important terms like variables, which are variables are of various types. The value, see, first there is two classification. One is variable and another is constant. If I say that my body weight is 60 kgs, it means that I'm talking about a constant term. And if I say that the average milk yield of a breed of cattle at different places, it is going to vary. If I take the terms x, y, z, p, q, suppose they denote certain terms, then they are the variables. So the data which varies is called variable, which is constant is called constant. Now variables are of many types. Data is generally divided into two categories: quantitative data, which represents the amount, and the categorical data, which represents the groupings. A variable that contains quantitative data is a quantitative variable, and a variable that contains categorical data is called a categorical variable. Each of these type of variables can be broken down into further types. First is quantitative variable. When we collect quantitative data, the numbers we record represent the real amount that can be added, subtracted, divided, etc. See, quantitative data means the measurable data, the metric data which can be measured. Friends, when we talk about the body weight, milk yield, growth rate, age at first, calving, etc., they can all be measured. So all those traits which can be measured and have a particular value are called as quantitative variables. Other than that, the variables which are related to the attributes, that is the characters, that is the qualitative characters, say suppose beauty, say suppose naughtiness, their color, other traits, means all those traits or characters mostly you studied in Mendelian genetics are the qualitative traits. You must be remembering red green color blindness in that axial and terminal position of the Pisum sativum and so on, red, yellow and green pod color and so on. They are all the qualitative traits. So which represents the quality, skin color, they are all the qualitative traits. And against it, the quantitative traits or variables, they can be measured. Now, quantitative variables are of two types, discrete and continuous. So when we talk about discrete and continuous variables, taking on to the first term discrete variable, those variables which take only whole number values are called discrete values. Example, count of individual items or values, number of animals in a farm, number of students in a class, number of different tree species in a forest, egg production. They are all discrete variable, means they take only whole number values. Other than that, the continuous variable or ratio variables are those variable which take whole number as well as decimal values. Example, the measurement of, see, when we talk about discrete and continuous variable, let me tell you something. If I say that the number of students in a class is 12.25, you would definitely laugh on me at my insane reply, because number of a student can never be 12.5 or 13.25 or 1.2. Or if I say ki there are total 4.2 members in my family, then these are all vague. Or if I say I have 4.2 fingers in my hands, they are all vague. So all those variables which take only whole number values, number of students, they don't take decimal or fraction values, number of fingers, number of toes, etc., they are called as discrete variable or discontinuous, because they don't take the values in between it. So they are called as discrete because they are discontinuous in nature. They just take the whole number values and they don't take the decimal values. Compared to it, the continuous variables are those variables which take whole number as well as decimal values. Example, measurement of continuous or non-finite values, weight, age at first, calving, milk yield, calving interval, distance, volume, etc. Now the categorical variable. The categorical variables represent the groupings of some kind. They are sometimes recorded as numbers, but the number represent categories rather than actual amount of things. There are three types of categorical variable: binary, nominal and ordinal variables. So what are binary variables? As I said to you all, there are three types of categorical variable. They are the binary variables, nominal variables or the ordinal variables. So When you talk about quantitative, you just now knew about quantitative variables or the continuous variables. When you talk about quantitative or continuous variable, you just now learnt about quantitative variables, and then you came to know about the discrete and continuous variables, and then we studied about the discrete or continuous variables, and they both were the types of quantitative variables. Then you came to know about the another type of variable. See, in the beginning only we had talked about it. That is, you can say that they are the non-quantitative or the qualitative variables. They're also called as categorical variables. The categorical variables can be categorized into three types: binary, nominal, and ordinal. You have already learned the types of quantitative variable. Now about categorical. In case of categorical variable, the first one, binary variable. First one, the binary variable, they have yes or no outcomes. Example, heads or tails in a coin flip, win or lose in a football game. Now the second one is nominal variable. They represent the groups with no rank or order between them. Species name, colors, brands, name of the breed. And the third one is ordinal variable. They represent the groups that are ranked in a specific order. Example, the finishing place in a race, rating, scale response in a survey. Now these three variables, which are non-continuous, non-measurable variables, I have taken these three variables because while analyzing the data with the help of SPSS, I had to fill few of the names of the variables, and then I encountered some problem in the beginning. I was not able to write which one is the nominal and ordinal, and then I thought, why not acquaint my student with it, that this nominal variable means name. Suppose you are writing the name of the breeds in one column, so they are the nominal variables. Then another, the ordinal variable. Suppose you represent the order of the data. Say, suppose you say it is 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 6, or the age categorization. They are all the ordinal variables. And if your variable consists of heads and tails or yes or no outcomes, they are the binary variable or dichotomous variable. Depending upon the part of the experiment, when we are talking about the part of the experiment, it is independent or dependent variables. Now, part of the experiment is independent. Depending upon the part of the experiment, we have two type of variable, that is independent or dependent variable. When you say independent variable, they are those variable on which effect is produced. That is they are those variable which produce the effect. Sorry, that is the variables which produce the effect. If we have to see the effect of feed additive on a group of animals, then the feed additive is the independent variable, and the group of animals on which you have to see the effect of feed additive are the dependent variable. So the feed additive is the treatment variable. Please don't confuse this term treatment with the treatment used in any disease of an animal. This in case of experimental designs, or in case of what we are studying right now, the types of variables based on the type of experiment, the treatment variable as the variable whose effect is to be seen, or they are also called as independent variable or the effector variable. For example, the amount of salt added to each plant's water is the independent variable or treatment variable. Similarly, dependent variables are the variables on which the effect is to be seen. Example, any measurement of plant health and growth, in this case plant height and wilting. The third one, that is control variable, the variables that are held constant throughout the experiment, that is on which no treatment or the effect of independent variable is applied. The temperature and light in the room and the plant are kept in, and the volume of the water given to each plant. They are the control variable. So when you intend to see the effect of any feed additive on a group of animals, what you do, you generally measure, say suppose body weight at different ages in a group of animal by giving feed additive, and you generally keep another group of animal on which you do not give the feed additive, all other managemental conditions remaining the same. And so the group in which you are not giving the feed additive or the treatment variable or the independent variable or the effective variable will act as a control variable. And the group in which on which you are actually giving the treatment is the dependent variable on which you have to see the effect. Now, see, I don't know what is the problem. It is encountering some problem, but then doesn't matter. I'll be able to manage it. I was not able to see it previously. Just now I see it. It is the first time I see this problem. Now coming to the next, parametric and non-parametric hypothesis testing. Now before I move on to this slide or further, the basic concept about hypothesis testing, the various hypothesis testing or the test of significances are used. You must have learnt about chi-square test, t-test, z-test, ANOVA test. They are all meant, Mann-Whitney test, McNemar test, they are all meant to see the effect, whether the effect is significant or not. When you studied biostatistics, initially you must have studied about the average or mean, then you came to know about the measure of dispersion, and then you study about the hypothesis testing. So during what you do, through mean you get to know that the average value of one is greater or lesser than the other. So the main purpose of the measure of central tendency, be it mean, median, mode, harmonic mean, or other measures of central tendency, as you must be remembering from the initial lessons of measure of central tendency, was to see whether the effect, to compare the effect between two or more groups. That is to analyze the data, right? You supplemented it with various measures of dispersion to make your analysis, to make your result, to make your finding more relevant. When you use the hypothesis testing or test of significance, you just intend to make it even more stronger or relevant. There are two types of tests, that is parametric test and non-parametric test. Broadly, all the hypothesis testing, that is the T, Z, chi-square, ANOVA, broadly, it can be classified into two groups, parametric and non-parametric. When we talk about parametric tests are the tests based on population parameters. So all those variables for which we have population parameters available, we go for parametric test. So you must have understood that in quantitative variables, you use the parametric test for hypothesis testing, and for qualitative variables or attributes, you make non-parametric test of hypothesis testing, because in that case, you do not have the various population parameters like mean, median, mean, mode, etc. available as you have in case of parametric test. In case of parametric test, we make assumption about the population. We use a normal probabilistic distribution, use a mean value for the central tendency. It requires prior knowledge about the population or precisely the population parameters. In case of non-parametric test, which is mainly meant for the attributes, it doesn't make any assumptions. Distribution is arbitrary, applicable for non-parametric or the variables which are qualitative in nature. It uses the median value for the central tendency, and it doesn't require previous knowledge about the population. Now coming to the next slide, we have parametric tests. It's same parametric test and non-parametric test. Parametric test assumes underlying statistical distribution in the data. The result of parametric test is reliable. For example, the student's t-test for two independent sample is reliable only which each sample follows a normal distribution and if the sample variances are homogeneous. The advantage of using a parametric test instead of a non-parametric equivalent is that the former will have more statistical power than the latter. In other words, a parametric test is more able to lead to a rejection of H0. Most of the time, the p-value associated with the parametric test will be lower than the p-value associated to a non-parametric equivalent that is run on the same data. Non-parametric tests do not rely on any distribution. Non-parametric tests are more robust than the parametric tests. They are valid on a broader range of situations. So you can see that non-parametric tests are more valid on wider range of data, but parametric tests are more reliable. Now coming to the next slide, as you can see, this classifies our current. Coming to the next slide, as you can see, just now we were here. Yeah, this was the slide we were concentrating. Hypothesis test hierarchy. Hypothesis tests are of broadly two types, parametric test and non-parametric test. Parametric tests are further of two types, one sample test and two sample test. One sample parametric test. So let me remind you, hypothesis testing can be broadly of two types, parametric and non-parametric test. Hypothesis test is meant to see whether the difference or the comparison you have already done via the central tendency or dispersion is significant or not. You take two hypotheses to test the hypothesis in any of these, null and alternate. Null hypothesis is the hypothesis of equality and is meant to be rejected. Alternate hypothesis is the hypothesis to be accepted. This hypothesis testing is of two types, parametric and non-parametric. A parametric test can further be divided into two types, one sample test and two sample test. One sample parametric test can be t-test or z-test. Two sample parametric test can be independent sample test, paired sample test. Independent sample test can either be two-group t-test or z-test, while paired sample test are the paired t-test. Similarly, these are the types of non-parametric tests. So if you have a continuous or quantitative variable, you will be using these hypothesis tests ideally. In case of the attributes for which you do not have population parameters available, you go for non-parametric test, which is a one sample or two sample test. One sample can be chi-square, Kolmogorov, Smirnov or Runge, and the two sample test can be independent and paired sample. Independent sample test can be chi-square or Mann-Whitney test, while paired sample test is sign test and the Wilcoxon test. So here you can see, in case of parametric and non-parametric test, so here you can see, in case of parametric and non-parametric test, broadly we have parametric, we have paired t-test, and its counterpart in non-parametric is Wilcoxon rank sum test. In case of parametric, if we have one paired, in case of non-parametric, we have Mann-Whitney U-test. In case of parametric, we have Karl Pearson's correlation, and its counterpart in non-parametric is the Spearman correlation. Let me tell you, when we used to study correlation coefficient, for the qualitative data we used Karl Pearson's coefficient, and for the rank we used quantitative, used Karl Pearson's correlation. For the qualitative, that is the beauty or naughtiness, whereby we compare the correlation, or we do the correlation by ranking, we go for Spearman's rank correlation. So this is a non-parametric equivalent of Pearson's correlation. Non-parametric equivalent of unpaired t-test is Mann-Whitney. Non-parametric equivalent of paired t-test is Wilcoxon rank sum test. Non-parametric equivalent of one-way ANOVA is Kruskal-Wallis test. Would like to say a few things after this next slide. Similarly, if your variable is nominal, these are the various counterparts, non-equivalents of paired t-test. In case of quantitative normal variables, you go for paired t-test. In case of quantitative discrete or non-normal variables, you go for Wilcoxon test. In case of ordinal or ordered category variables, you go for Wilcoxon test, and while in case of nominal variables, you go for McNemar test. So for similar type of situation, depending upon the type of variables, you have to choose the test. This is very, very essential, because you have two types. See, it means from these two tables, this one and this one, you get to know that it is very, very essential to know which type of test out of these many tests to be applied, hypothesis testing. Would like to discuss a few things for a while, that even during the research or PG or PhD students encounter few problems if they do not have a previous knowledge about statistics, that which test should I apply, which hypothesis testing should I apply, which statistical analysis should I use for my data, and that's why they confuse with the test used. Although a matter of practice, friends, first of all see your data along with the situation. What is your objective first? Second, you see what type of, once you are done with the objective, you see what type of variables you have. Then you sort it out whether it's parametric test or non-parametric. Then it is one sample or two sample. And then on the basis of that, according to your objective, you choose from these tests. So it is very, very essential, as you can see from here also, to know about which type of variable it is. Starting with the very first test, it is a chi-square test. So let's go to this slide and see where does this chi-square lie. So actually chi-square test is a non-parametric test. So you use this chi-square test when you do not have a previous knowledge about the population parameters. So it is called as non-parametric, and you have to use it for two samples, and the two samples are independent of each other. So what are the situations for which you are going to use the chi-square, or what is chi-square will be dealt with now. The square of a standard normal variable is called a chi-square variate with 1 degree of freedom, abbreviated as dv. Thus, if x is a random variable following normal distribution with mean mu and standard deviation sigma, then x minus mu upon sigma is a standard normal variate. X minus mu upon sigma whole square is a chi-square. The lateral chi-square of Grieff alpha weight variate with 1 degree of freedom. The applications of chi-square distribution or types of chi-square distribution are: first, chi-square test for goodness of fit; second, chi-square test for independence of attributes; third, chi-square test to test if the population has a specified value of variance sigma square. These are the types of chi-square test. It means you use the chi-square test in the following situation. Now, first of all, the chi-square test, this is the general statistics of chi-square test. General formula in either of the 4 cases, the general formula for chi-square test is O1 minus E1 whole square upon E1 plus O2 minus E2 whole square is missing upon E2 plus O3 minus E3 whole square upon E3 up till On minus En whole square upon En, follows chi-square distribution with n minus 1 degree of freedom, where O1, O2, O3, O4 are the observed frequencies and E1, E2, E3, E4 are the corresponding expected frequencies. So you need to, it means from this you can guess that in case of chi-square test, you actually compare some observed data with the expected data. The very preliminary examination or the very preliminary guess about the use of chi-square test. Now, second thing, it is used to test the equality of several it is actually the 4th one, which actually, you see, this is the 4th type of chi-square test which we will be knowing about. Now, coming to the chi-square test of goodness of fit, which is the first type of chi-square test, you can see that chi-square test of goodness of fit was discovered by Karl Pearson in 900. We are talking about the first type of chi-square test. We have started with the chi-square test. It is a non-parametric test. Chi-square test, it is a non-parametric test which is actually used for 2 sample independent samples. From the general statistics of chi-square, you have known that in case of chi-square, you compare 2 set of observed and expected data. Now, chi-square test of goodness of fit was developed by Karl Pearson in 1900, who developed a test for testing the significance of the discrepancy between experimental values and the theoretical values obtained under some theory of hypothesis. This test is known as chi-square test of goodness of fit and is used to test if the deviation between observation n experiment and the theory may be attributed to chance fluctuation of sampling, or if it is really due to inadequacy of the theory to fit the observed data. Means it compares the observed and the expected, whether they are fitting, the expected one is fitting the observed data or not. Under the null hypothesis, in this case also, I said 2 lines in the beginning of hypothesis testing that all the hypothesis testing are based, have 2 hypotheses in the beginning: null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis. Sometimes you also get the definition, what is null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis denoted by, would like to explain it a bit over here. I don't know why this is showing. Null hypothesis, there is no significant difference between the observed and the theoretical hypothetical value, and there is good compatibility between theory and experiment. So if I take this null hypothesis denoted by H naught, null hypothesis is the hypothesis of equality, which says there is no significant difference between the observed and the expected, in this case, in case of chi-square, while alternate hypothesis H1, which is alternate to null hypothesis, alternate to null hypothesis, it says that there is significant difference, between the observed and the expected value. So you know that when you compare two groups, generally you would like to, although it depends upon the objective of the analysis, you would like to have this, it is the hypothesis meant to be rejected. See, suppose I have to see the effect of many medicine, and if there is no significant difference between the treatment in a control group and as well as in the treatment group, you will say that it is actually null hypothesis accepted. Then it is not going to be a favorable result. Similarly, if when you use a feed additive, you would definitely like to have significant gain in body weight in the treatment group. So ideally what is there now? You want null hypothesis to be rejected and alternate to be accepted. In most of the cases, not always. So what you say, null hypothesis is the hypothesis to be rejected. These two hypotheses are always put. So when you go for hypothesis testing, be parametric, be it non-parametric, either of the any of the methods being used, always remember to devise this null and alternate hypothesis. To write this null and alternate hypothesis, it will help you to be clear with your purpose of your hypothesis testing. So chi-square test, in case of Karl Pearson's chi-square test, that is chi-square test for goodness of fit, which is the first type of chi-square test. Chi-square is equal to summation OI minus EI whole square upon EI. In this case, degree of freedom is n minus 1, O1, O2, O3 and O1 are the observed, and E1, E2, E3 and En are the expected or theoretical frequencies. Now, what is the interpretation of chi-square value? Once you have calculated the chi-square value, the calculated chi-square value is compared with tabulated chi-square value at n minus 1 degree of freedom at alpha level of significance. In case of veterinary research, we generally have two level of significance, alpha 0.01 and 0.05. So what is the meaning of it, and what is the interpretation of it, and what is the significance of it? If I say that my alpha is 0.05, it means I have the 5% probability of committing error, and I am 95% sure about the accuracy of the result. And again, when my alpha is 0.01, it means I am 1% sure, 1%, I have the 1% probability of committing error, and I am 99% sure about the accuracy of the result. So which one is better? You would better know, and you must have understood that 0.01% level of significance is better because it has lesser probability of committing error and more accuracy. So then why don't we keep this alpha at 0.0001, 0.0002? Yes, we could keep it. But being so rigorous would make most of our result fall in the level of non-significance, and then we won't be able to have any fruitful result. When we talk about any life-saving medicine or the very, very vital research, we increase the level of significance from 0.05 to 0.01 and so on, to reduce the percentage of error. So this means that at 0 alpha percentage, this is the rejection region, this is the acceptance region, and this is the critical value. Now, suppose there is a question. This question is based upon chi-square test of goodness of fit. The question is the number of kids born per month in a goat farm were as follows. 12, 8, 20, 2, 14, 10, 15, 6, 9 and 4 are the birth significantly different to each other.